dysfunction is gold,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Now think about what you go, what? My business is dysfunctional and there's gold in there? He says, yep. And you just
Yep.
got to get to picking and getting it out. This business podcast, the Two Business Guys Mastermind, uncovers for you secrets and share tips and tricks to entrepreneurship as they mastermind on how to have startup, operational, and overall business success so that you can go on to get better results. Enjoy. Hey, Randy and Rob back, y'all. The Two Business Guys are masterminding. In this episode, Rob and I must have talked an hour before we actually hit record. So you're going to get a little bit of everything. But one of the things that really stuck out to us was a couple of things. First, Rob said something. He says, build your business so it can be delivered. Don't build it to deliver. And we want to break that down a little bit. Another thing was seeing your business as an ingredient, not the whole pie. That's difficult for me to see my business and what I do as an ingredient, but now I'm kind of changing my mind. So we want to dive into that a little bit. And we got a book that we're going to highlight today, y'all. All right. And this book is the book is called Work the System by Sam Carpenter.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
we'll jump into it.
And remember, the third thing is how you can see dysfunction as an opportunity rather than as a problem.
Yeah. Dysfunction in the book, he says, dysfunction is gold.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Mm-hmm. Now think about what you go, what? My business is dysfunctional and there's gold in there. He says, yep. And you just got to get to picking and getting it out.
Yeah. So I think if we start with the first piece, the building the business to be delivered instead of for you to deliver, I think one of the things that I have gone through personally over the last kind of 3 years really is reevaluating how I'm running my business, what I'm doing with my business, and going through that. And it's so crazy because like intellectually, I understood it. I read Cash Flow Quadrant 10 years ago, right? I understood the difference between a small business and a big business for years. But what I didn't understand and what I didn't see, and what I've seen a lot of the businesses that I've coached deal with as well, is how difficult it is to separate what your business does from your ego, right? As a business owner, part of what we get pride out of is that external validation of we did a good job, right? It feels good to hear you're the only one who can do this. It feels good to be that one of one in a room. It feels good to know that you're at the top of the mountain, that everybody appreciates what you do and how you do it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And right, Michael Gerber talks about this in the E-Myth when he talks about, a lot of us are master technicians, right? Yes. We have built ourselves to the point where we're at the top of our craft and we know that we do it better than everybody else before we launch into doing business. And I know I fell victim to this. One of the things I used to love is when I would go in as a consultant to a company and they're like, oh, we've never had this experience before. We've never had anybody break it down to us like this before. Or, right, you're not like the other consultants. All the different things. They felt so good. And one of my business coaches was explaining to me, they're like, that's great, but it's not scalable. And it was like, like it hit, it's like a gut punch, right? It's like, and you start thinking about it, it's like, oh yeah, because I have to either go find other people like me, and if I'm thinking that I'm one of one, then that's not a possibility. Or I've got to train other people up to be like me, which is a long-term prospect, right? And I remember I watched Founder. And I don't know if you all have seen that movie. It's with Michael Keaton. He plays Ray Kroc and talking about the McDonald's experience. And one of the things that I loved about the McDonald's brothers and how they built the business was that they were not concerned about being the best hamburger makers, flippers in the industry. As a matter of fact, they built systems that high schoolers could run, but that could routinely and effectively and sustainably get the results that they needed. And they engineered the system for the high schoolers, not for themselves. because they may have been able to do it faster. They may have been able to cut corners or to
Hmm.
utilize their institutional knowledge to make things happen. But they were not building that system so that they could be the ones serving, delivering the food. And it was that aha moment for me where it was like, "Hmm, I have to stop building my coaching practice, my consulting practice, the systems and the trainings that we do. I had to stop building them so that I could deliver them."
Hmm.
That was my creative, mantra. I'd see a problem, I'd come up with something so that I could go fix it.
Hmm.
And it was like, that's a great way for me to build a business where I'm busy all year doing delivery. The problem
Hmm.
with running a business is you have the sales hat, you have the marketing hat, you have all the other hats. So I can't be busy all year doing delivery. Otherwise, the business won't grow. And that constraint is something that's like it's always been kind of looming over my shoulder. Like every time I get to the point where I get a lot of contracts, I'm like, but I see that when I'm doing a lot of fulfillment, I'm not doing a lot of building the pipeline,
Understandable.
introductions, meeting
Sure.
people, doing all the rest of
Yeah.
that stuff. And it feels like it's this seesaw where it's like we're making a lot of money, we got a lot of fulfillment, but I know that there's danger on the horizon because when this runs out, what's going to fill it? And so then when we go back this way, I'm doing a lot of this and I'm not doing a ton of fulfillment, but the pipeline is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And what I started to realize was I was setting us up for failure. And so when I said that to you when we were talking, it was I realized that I have to start building programs that we're building so that they can be delivered easily to customers by others, not so that I could deliver them. I had to take myself out of the equation and say, if I had basically competent, right, or maybe even above average competent, but not, um, you know, not dream team players,
Hmm.
just, very good college players. Like to go back to the USA basketball analogy, right? Like the dream team was a collection of players, all of whom were on the 50 greatest players in the history of the NBA team,
Hmm.
right? Like it was an amazing collection of talent. And of course, they could do amazing things. But one of the problems and one of the things they figured out with USA basketball was they had to get a program that could take good talent and make it world class,
Hmm.
right? Because they actually got beat with NBA talent. They got beat because the program didn't help that NBA talent to come together and work together to play as a team and to work. And so, if you go on what is it called? Netflix, you can watch the Redeem Team documentary. It'll give you all that information. But the thing about it is so many organizations and so many businesses are trying to find top tier A talent. It's a commodity. I remember when I was in law school, I wrote an article about. I mean, yeah, I wrote an article about this. I wrote a case summary to my dean about this because we were looking at why is it so difficult to to recruit minority talent to law schools. And we were at the time when I was dean's fellow at Illinois, I think we were ranked 23rd or 25th in the country, right?
Hmm.
Um, and so it wasn't like we were a Rudy Poo school, but it was difficult. I remember I graduated with 8 African Americans in my class of 270 people that graduated from law school. Um, and it wasn't for lack of trying to go and find people. But one of the things that the school didn't realize is that when you're a minority person that can get into a top 30 law school, you are a commodity because of the fact that all of the systems that exist do such a bad job at matriculating minority BIPOC candidates at a high rate. But by the time you get through that gauntlet, you are one of very few that everybody is kind of clamoring for.
So they may not get them because, well,
Exactly.
they
And you realize
realize
you're a
I'm
commodity.
gold.
Right. And if you don't know how to go and talk to that type of people, if you don't know how to close that class of people, then you're going to struggle. And it's the same thing in business, right? The people that are amazing that that do everything and think ahead and all the rest of that, they are a commodity in the business space. It's not as if that's the majority of people that's in the marketplace. And so if you're competing, is one of our favorite books, Blue Ocean Strategy. If you're competing in the top talent market, you're competing in a red ocean, right? You're competing with all the Fortune 100, all the Fortune 500. You're competing with everybody who wants that top talent. But if you can be someone who takes a B player, right, solid B, not bad, not CDF, but a solid B player, and you can create a system whereby they can actually perform at a higher level. Now you can compete with those A player teams, right? You might not be world champions, but you're definitely going to be in the playoffs every year, which now makes you part of that group that is now more attractive to that top talent because they're not having to build from scratch. You have a record and a pedigree. And so I say all that to say, when I really started looking at this, it was, how do you start building your business to scale? How do you start building your business so that you can get out of the delivery business so that you can do what Michael Gerber talks about and work on the business instead of in the business? And the first thing, and it was really hard for me, was I had to figure out how to deliver the same level of quality with a reduced delivery mechanism, right? The delivery mechanism doesn't have to have all the bells and whistles that me doing it comes with, but the value add to the client remains the same. And so I remember I started doing it with my coaching program, and I started training coaches. And the beauty of it was in the training, I got to see this. I was training the coaches and I was having them coach each other and then do the debriefs and everything else. And you could see it happening, but they were able to get the transformation that I was getting. It wasn't all the extra stuff. It wasn't all the extra stories and all the extra feel goods and everything, but it was the baseline competent level transformation to where they were making people feel similar things and working through the scripts, just doing the work.
Yeah, that's what I
It
was
was
going to say.
so
Scripts. I used to
exactly
hate
with the
scripts.
script.
Now I love them.
Love scripts, right? And so I think for a lot of business owners, right? I remember, so we have with a lot of the entrepreneurial startups that we've coached, you got candle businesses, you got coaching businesses, car wash businesses, or detailing, and I mean just businesses that run the gamut, right? Technology, software, everything. One of the interesting things that every business owner that I have coached struggled with was creating their system so that it wasn't idiosyncratically designed for them and extrapolating the value from how they do it and actually putting the value together into a system that anybody that's baseline competent can do.
Oh, that's good.
And that's
Go from how I do it to how it's done.
done. Exactly. And that's the reason that's where that whole concept of you've got to build your systems to be delivered, not for you to deliver them. You got to take you out of the system while leaving the transformation that you facilitate in the system.
Man, I tell you, we wanted to come on, everyone. We want you to, smash your like button, comment on it, subscribe, and send it to some other people. Send it as a gift. It says, hey, listen, what they're talking about today is something that you need in your business. Instead of me saying it to you, I just want you to listen to the Two Business Guys Mastermind on this particular subject. So if you do that for us, we certainly would appreciate it. Get it over to people. We're trying to grow the channel in a crazy, crazy way. We got some goals. We did a lot of, I don't care if one or two people listen, just to build up a whole bunch of content. And now we've got over 78 episodes that we're going to be breaking down, and you'll be seeing that over time. But right now, we really are making a push to have our information in front of other people that you believe they could be served from, right? Let us know if there's a part that you liked and you want to just put it in the comment section, right? Or send me a DM, right? Send us an email, a DM, or whatever it is, and we'll get back to you. But Rob, I love what you said, man. It is one of those things where I continually see the same kind of problems that businesses have, and especially the entrepreneurs that are just starting off and they're developing their to-do list, but they seem to get stuck in those same type of spots. I'm
Mhm.
looking at it from the perspective of it's because you don't have any kind of systematized anything built,
Mhm.
right? It's like
Yeah.
a one rung ladder.
Yeah.
You step on
Yeah.
it, you get a little taller. Okay. Yeah, but
Mhm.
what's next? It's
Yep.
one rung.
Yep.
Got to build a system that allows you to go to soar to whatever heights you want to soar to. I
Mhm.
think this is good information for everybody, right?
Yeah, no, and I like what you said about the like what's next. And I think where people get stuck too is then they build a system that only they can climb. Like they build a ladder that only they can climb,
Yeah, yeah, that's just
right?
for them.
Yeah, it's just for them. And that's the second piece. And I think a lot of people and I kind of want to transition to this concept of, dysfunction being gold that you were talking about, because I
Mhm.
think this is where it comes in. A lot of people, there's this fear of failure and there's this desire to not have any problems. And so just talk a little bit about that book that you were reading, and where you got that from, because it immediately made me think of something, but I wanted the audience to get the background of that
Yeah,
book
I'm
and,
and
and,
I'm
and the
early
author.
in to the book,
Hmm.
everyone. So I'm not gonna front and say I'm not gonna cap and say that I'm totally into it so far. I'm at the first stages, but this is what I'm kind of getting an idea of is
Hmm.
that you turn stuff that looks like it's gonna be bad. Oh my gosh, things aren't going well, things are
Hmm.
dysfunctional, things aren't right, into yeah, and that's where the gold is because it is telling you something, right? Rob uses this analogy that pain is information,
Yes,
right?
yes,
It's not
yes.
just pain. It's maybe saying wrong shoes
Right, right.
or don't step in that pothole that's going to break your ankle.
Hmm.
Right? And as
Yeah.
a runner, you understand that, right, Rob?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
when you think about the book Work the System, just let's look at the
Hmm.
name, right? It's telling you verb work, and it didn't say work yourself. It says put a system in place. So this is what I'm gathering from it as the energy of the book increases. It's
Hmm.
already got me feeling good because it says everything can be turned. You just got to
Hmm.
look at it differently.
Exactly. Nah, and I'm a big fan of seeing, right? Tony Robbins has a saying where he says, life doesn't happen to us, it happens for
For us,
us.
I say
Right?
that to people all the time.
Yep.
Sometimes at the wrong time, right? It says, well, something, they're like, I don't want to hear that. I need,
Right.
I need money. I'm in a situation. They get ready to take my house. It says, well, life doesn't happen to you. It happens for you. Okay.
Exactly. Right.
Dude,
And
get
then
out of
in
here.
that space, I think, the other analogy, like pain is pain. And one of the big things that I find that, you know, my mentees and my coaching partners will struggle with is overwhelm and feeling like there's so
Yeah.
much going on right now. How
Yeah.
do I deal with all the stuff we have going on? And one of the things I like to talk to people about is like pain, overwhelm, those types of things are like they're like smoke detectors, right? The whole thing about them is, like you said, they're information. And the beauty of it is they're information that protects you if you heed them, if you listen to them, if you decipher the information, protect you from bigger calamity down the road,
Mhm.
right? So, like you said, pain is the indication to you from your body that if you keep doing what you're doing, there's going to be some sort of injurious moment that's
Right.
going to happen if you
Right.
keep doing that, right? And a lot of people will ignore pain to their own peril, right? And they'll have a twinge or something in a muscle, and then they'll keep going, keep going, keep going, and now the muscle's pulled or the muscle snaps or whatever it may be, right? Or you keep running on this rugged road, and every time you hit a pothole, right? Like you're like, oh, it's all right, no problem. And then you hit this one and you snap your ankle, right? Like those types of things are indicators to you of what you should and shouldn't be doing. But
Yeah.
similarly, overwhelm for entrepreneurs and for people in general is a phenomenal tool, because what overwhelm is, it's an early warning indicator that the systems that you have for making decisions and for prioritizing and for processing your life are inadequate to the tasks that are in front of you currently.
See that right there? That's gold, y'all. When what you have, what you're doing is telling you a story, what is the story? That's the digging part of it, right? I remember something that Grant Cardone. Now y'all all know, Grant Cardone has his haters and he has his lovers. But he said there's no such thing as overwhelm. It's just underwork. Now, you kind of go, wait a minute, that's offensive, right? Clutch the pearls.
Right.
But it's something to that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
underworking or under systematizing.
Exactly.
So let's look at it like that.
That's the thing that I would say, just to depart a little bit, because Grant Cardone is one of those. I like Grant. So let me first say disclaimer. I like Grant Cardone in doses.
In doses.
And the main reason why he's mercurial to me, right? He's one of those people that I fully think he's bipolar, right? But he's like really high and then he'll be really, really down, angry, manic, kind of angry, and he'll be right. So that's the only thing for me. Like I watched, you and me watched the thing that he did on Discovery Channel, and just watching him go through his highs and lows during that, right? And it made perfect sense, but he seems like one of those personalities. So I take what he says with a grain of salt, because he goes through you got to grind hard, and then he goes through one of my favorites, which is you got to work smarter, right? And he's always kind of going back and forth between work harder or work smarter. And I believe that I get it, because that is a difficult thing that we have to come across in what we're doing. But I would say overwhelm is generally not telling you that you're not working hard enough. Don't take that on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like if the shoe fits, then yeah, you small group of people who are being lazy, don't be lazy. But for most of the people that listen to this podcast, for most of the people that are doing the work that we're talking about of building a business, it's not that you're not working hard enough, it's that you're not working smart enough.
Mm-hmm.
And because you're not working smart enough, you're not willing to work harder, because there's no return on the investment of the extra energy.
Wow, that's it. That sounds like, well, I don't trust my business. Because I talk to entrepreneurs and says, why don't you trust your business? What do you mean? Right. Well, because you're not putting a lot of time into it. And that's because it's not getting you the return you want. Rob says this all the time. He said it to me. Yeah. He says, well, is that the real reason you don't want to do this? Or is it not paying off?
That's the key.
In the business itself, right? When we think about, if you're looking at the business as a pie and you go, I don't see a pie. I've been doing this thing. I don't see a pie. Rather than looking at the business as an ingredient. Then you go, well, your ingredient with someone else's ingredients is giving somebody a pie.
Exactly.
The key is, how do you get paid on your ingredient? Or have, I'm doing this no matter what. I can't help myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like Stephen King.
That's where the
he writes
comes
books
from.
Because he can't help himself.
Exactly.
And as a result of it,
he loves
chunks out a lot of books.
But then he figured out, right? Because he was writing a lot of books before he ever got on. He had a full-time job and he was writing on the weekends and writing on the evenings and doing all the rest of that. And then he got connected with a system with the rest of the ingredients of a pie and a baker. And now he's getting paid off of his ingredient to that system. Movies, books, they got like Stephen King days where he'll do just show up and sign books and all that stuff.
And the guy is worth over, $500 million, y'all.
Right.
Look it up. He's worth a lot of money, but he still cranks it out. Us, we get $1 million. We're retiring. That's it. I'm out.
But to that point, I think that, and that's where, and y'all know that me and Randy sometimes disagree. This is one of the points where we'll disagree. I disagree that that's what happens. For example, you retired, I don't know how many times now, but at the end of the day, I have never known you to stop. Oh, I got this new thing and I got this thing and I'm reading this book and I'm doing
all the time.
Right. Even when you're in your retirement, you're still doing what drives you. And I think that that's, for a lot of us entrepreneurs, we're doing what drives us. But to your point, we haven't figured out how to monetize that ingredient. We haven't figured out how to make that ingredient its value. And oftentimes it's because that ingredient by itself may be only worth 20 cents. That ingredient in a pie is now worth its share of $20. Right? Yeah, so say there's 5 other ingredients in that pie. Like all of those ingredients are 20-cent ingredients. Yep. The pie is $1. But If that pie can sell for $20, each of those ingredients is now worth $4.
It still needs ingredients. That's the key, everyone.
Exactly. And that's
It
the key. And
still
for
needs your
every pie
business.
that you sell, it's doing that. So I think that to your point, and what Grant Cardone was saying, like overwhelm is an indication. And again, I'll say this to you all because I think the way I want to explain this, overwhelm is an indication that your current system for prioritization, for accomplishing things is not adequate to the tasks that you have in front of you,
Task at hand.
to
Yeah.
the things that you have in front of you. What that means is it doesn't allow for the same efficiency and effectiveness mix that you're used to. Sometimes that's going to mean that you're going to have to be less efficient so that you can be effective. But I always believe that's a temporary solution because once we figure out how to be effective, we should always then be looking at how to become more efficient once we can hit the mark. The goal then is to be able to hit the mark easier and easier and easier and easier over time. And that's where I believe some people, if you're not hitting the mark, yes, it's because you're not working hard enough, right? You don't
Mhm.
want it enough. You don't see the return on investment, whatever it is. But once you start hitting the mark, and this is what happened. I mean, this happened to me so many different times in my business. I remember the first time that I was on a six-figure run rate. I was hitting the mark. We had a $25,000 quarter. Life was good. I was hitting the mark, but I was looking at it and I was like, there's no way that I should have to work this hard to make this much money. Like, this doesn't make sense
Working
because,
hard to make money? No.
right,
Come
right,
on.
exactly. And at the end of the day, it wasn't that I was working like super hard, but I already knew I have a law degree. Like, I could go work this hard and make more money than this working for somebody else working this hard. Now, the upside working with somebody else doesn't exist. But I could not continue doing what I was doing because I was working 50, 60 hours a week to make that $25,000 in a quarter. And that's just 50, 60 hours a week actually doing the work. That's not the meeting with other people and trying to build programs and trying to do all this. This is just client delivery. So I was working 80 or 90 hours a week in my business to make that much money. And I'm like, there's no way that I should need to work 80, 90 hours a week so that I can make $100,000 a year. That's stupid.
Yeah, I don't I we really have to refine that. I see a lot of like the medical students and the lawyers and stuff like that. And I'm going, why? If you
Hmm.
just put that into a different vehicle, right? You put that into
Exactly.
a different vehicle, you can uncap your earnings. I've been reasonably obsessed, everyone, with ways by which to uncap your earnings, ways to by which you can leverage yourself, right? And
Yeah.
it hasn't been a struggle as much as it has been a journey, right?
Right.
Now that
Right.
journey, as I started looking at things and then start talking to others and watching businesses, coaching businesses, and coaching myself, listening to my own narratives, you're only a couple of opportunities away from doing just that, right? From
Yeah.
uncapping your earnings, from making
But
as
it
much money you want,
requires, right. But it
watching
requires
your
you to think about it and look at it differently. And I
it
think
it does. It
that
does.
part, and I mean, you've been preaching this to me and a lot over the time that we've known each other. And it's one of those things where like I get the frustration and the discomfort that a lot of the entrepreneurs have because for me, I was coming from, right, I came from the public sector. Here's the fun part. In the public sector, right, I was a teacher and then I was a Marine. One thing about being a teacher and a Marine is everybody knows exactly what you make. You know what you're gonna make for the next 10 years because it's on a salary schedule, right? Oh,
your
you have
your
a
earnings
master's
are
degree, you
capped.
have this many years teaching, you're making this much, and then you're making this. It don't matter what school you teach at, it don't matter. This is in this district, this is how much money you're gonna make. Right. And then as a Marine, same thing. Congress says this is how much military members are gonna get paid. You're a captain with this many years in. It don't matter what branch you in, it don't matter what you're doing, you making this much money. So I
This is
knew
it.
like my work and my quality and my effort and my efficacy, none of those things were connected for the majority of my professional life.
Mm.
Now, luckily, I had built businesses during that period of time too, but even that was, those were side businesses. Those were done during my off time. So it wasn't one of those things where, and those were more hobbies than anything. It was an interest to me to learn to build business and to learn to do things. And, I didn't really connect input to output. It was, as long as it was not costing me money, we were good. And so, right, as long as I was breaking even, life was good. I wasn't trying, I didn't have goals of I'm going to make this much money because I had my jobs. So in running a business, and right, and this is one of the cool things with our friendship, because you've been doing this for longer in that space. The thing that I had to learn was you have to really understand how to work smarter, not harder. Like I was telling you, I was doing 50 hours a week of fulfillment to make that $100,000
Yeah.
in that 1 year. And over since then, now I have clients where I may do 2 months of work the entire year in aggregate, right? Four to 10 hours a week, you know, on a client, or a month on a client, and I'm making that same $100,000.
Yeah. See, every listen to the goal that just dropped out, and what I'm getting ready to share to bolster that. Now, my big deal, of course, is the the quote I heard that just changed the trajectory of what I do. And the lady said this. She says, the amount of money you want to earn is in direct proportion to how many buy buttons you produce. Right. And I've said it in different ways, but how many buy buttons you produce and have out there, right?
Mhm.
How many buy buttons do you have out there? Oh, I got one business. That's one buy button. Think
Mhm.
about that. What I do is create multiple buy buttons. I try to find the thing that I can create that allows me to put a lot of work in up front and then sit back like a farmer and reap the benefits when it comes to harvest. Y'all hearing what I'm saying to you now? And what Rob just says, like how you uncap your earnings is to figure out the lever that allows you to work smarter, create like crazy, have multiple. Now, just that's why we like to bang our ideas off each other. That's why we like to masterminds, because we come at things from a different perspective, right? But we're still trying to say the same thing.
Yeah,
Build a system, build a
yeah,
business so it can feed you and pay you. Don't be working
exactly.
all in it. And I'm saying build something, put it out there, becomes a buy button for you,
Right.
digital real estate for you, and you have
And
an opportunity to uncap your earnings and just make as much money and have an interesting life. This is
and
the
I
key
love the
part.
fact,
Have an
oh
interesting
yeah,
life.
and interesting, like, and I love the fact that the audience gets to see kind of two different versions of that. Because like your version, which I think is awesome, is you create a bunch of buy buttons that are out there, digital real estate that are out there, that don't require anybody running them, right? You build it, you set it up, and it's largely automated. It's out there. So one of the things that you can do is you can set up a bunch of, this is like kind of the vending machine model, right?
Mm-hmm.
You set up a bunch of vending machines. They don't need anybody to do anything other than fill the machines and take the money out, right? Routine maintenance, that's it. The vending machine does the work, right? And those are all buy buttons. Every time you buy a vending machine and put it in a place, you got another stream of income. One of the things that I look at is on my side is creating those buy buttons from the perspective of building systems that other people can
Yes.
run.
Yeah.
So
You got a
building jobs for
business
people,
that
right? Building
has
jobs
vending
for people,
machines.
right? Because
Yeah.
each of those people is like a vending machine, right?
Yeah.
And so they may be selling the same thing,
I get it.
but we increase capacity across that. So every one of the, right, we have 6 coaches that we're training right now. That's 6 more buy buttons, because that's 6 more opportunities for me to give
That's
people
it.
coaching,
That's smart.
right? And we're bringing on probably 4 or 5 more consultants in the next year. That's 5 more buy buttons, right? And as we grow, we have all of those extra buy buttons from the organizational perspective. And what that also does is it also enlists them to help me build more buy buttons, because
Yeah.
we can build buy buttons for them to differentiate and diversify what they do.
You
So over
become deal
time,
flow for them. It's so
exactly.
awesome. I think about all these different shows that are on, like Shark Tank and all these different things, right? And you look at it, if you break down the business model itself, you go, wait a minute. They've become superstars on a show that gives people opportunity to come on and make money. Okay. But they have individually become stars that now go out and, as a result of being on the show, can go out and say, I can command more money, more attention because I'm on a hit show. And
Exactly.
a lot of them don't need the money. A couple of them may need the money, but a lot of now they got, Kevin Hart on there and he's killing it. But I mean, it's also another one is The Voice, right? Remember Randy Jackson was on there for like ever and he made a bag, right? And made some nice money. And then they have people come on and their albums start selling more, all these different things, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
As a result of being
American Idol, and then American Idol turned into The Voice, and didn't turn into, but they created The Voice as and you're exactly right. Like, not only do the people get on there and their album sales go up and everything, but there's a ton of. So think about it this way: American Idol, because American Idol, Voice, all of those, they sign contracts with the artists to build their albums. And so they make money off of the publicity of creating the hype of these artists because their album sales go up, which the albums are done on their label. And so it's just it's a distribution model, and they created buy buttons.
It's brilliant if you think about it, y'all. So, but again, ingredients.
Yeah.
Each one of these inputs is an ingredient brought together. Like Rob likes to build businesses that bring together ingredients. I feel, I says, look, this ingredient that I am is an expensive one. I enjoy it because I don't always like, being a part of a pie. That's just, he's trying to break me of that, but that becomes it, right? You can decide on the approach that you want to take. And that's why when you listen to the Two Business Guys Mastermind, that's why we ping off each other like this. Decide on an approach and just go for it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We want you out there making money, building good businesses, having fun, enjoying your life. So we try to bring that little slice to you with our stories and stuff like that. That's it. That's it. That's all we got for you, y'all. Rob, you got anything else? We can close it up.
No, I think that's good. Remember that, dysfunction is gold, overwhelm and pain are information, and treat them like smoke detectors. They're telling you that there's a fire about to come. Use it to give you an early warning and to actually change your systems to make them more efficient and more effective. Instead of looking at it like it's a problem, look at it like it's an opportunity.
I love that. And just look at your business from my side. So look at your business like an ingredient, not necessarily the whole pie.
That part.
And go out there and be the ingredient for a lot of different opportunities and you'll get money. That's it.
Yeah.
All right. We'll talk to you next time, everybody.